Good morning, class. Good afternoon, class. This is Miss Farrow again, and this is the second lesson of English literature, the 20th century. Today we'll talk about the literary contest. So get your book, your textbook, Cornerstone, page 322. The 20th century is an age of great change, both in literary contents and style. There was basically a rejection of everything that had come before, especially from the Victorian age. This is the age of images in poetry and modernism, talking about novels. An age of transition. Concerning modernism, modernism is a general term that encompasses other movements as naturalism, symbolism, images, futurism, cubism, vorticism, expressionism, and surrealism. Modernist novelists moved away from the conventional literary form. We have also to consider the diffusion of Freud's ideas of psychoanalysis, the human mind, the inner self. So these writers, these authors aimed at giving a more complex vision of man and his world. Reality and life were no longer perceived as something external and objective, but, as Virginia Woolf said, as a series of jig lamps symmetrically arranged. So, the modernist novel. Modernist writers were not interested in representing reality as it was, as the Victorian novelists did. Remember the Victorian novelists. So, modernist writers didn't depict reality as Victorians did, in a realistic or natural way. They wanted basically to represent the inner life as an uninterrupted flow of thoughts. Ecco che arriviamo al concetto di stream of consciousness, in italiano flusso di coscienza. So this flow of thoughts, which they called the stream of consciousness, is, and now I give you the exact definition of it. Stream of consciousness is a phrase or a period that describes the mind's unbroken flow of thoughts and perceptions. Per cui il flusso dei pensieri o delle percezioni o delle emozioni della mente umana, del pensiero umano. This expression of writing, this way of writing, this new way of writing, aims at reproducing this unbroken flow of thoughts in an authentic way. Many writers at the beginning of the 20th century adopted this process to obtain an original, although complex, narrative technique. Per cui è una tecnica peculiare dei modernisti dell'inizio del XX secolo, per cui 1900, è un modo di scrivere molto originale, ma molto complesso, ok? Una tecnica narrativa originale, per cui diversa da tutto ciò che era venuto prima, ma molto complessa. It is different from interior monologue in that no help is given from a narrator to guide the reader, as all thoughts occur in a flow of free associations and with no logical temporal framework. Per cui non c'è una logica, ci sono solamente pensieri che si susseguono. Per quale motivo vi sta parlando qui di monologue, interior monologue? Because the interior monologue is another very important and extremely popular technique used by these writers at the beginning of the 20th century. Interior monologue, definition, monologo interiore sarebbe, a style or technique of writing widely used by modernist authors at the beginning of the 20th century and aims at presenting a character's most inner thoughts as they occur. Praticamente voi direte è la stessa cosa, sono quasi sinonimi, ma mentre nell'interior monologue ci può essere il narratore che aiuta, che interviene, nello stream of consciousness, no one helps the reader. There's no intervention by the narrator. In the interior monologue, that is divided in indirect and direct, there is the intervention of the narrator that helps the reader only in the indirect one. So, indirect interior monologue. The narrator may intervene to guide the reader or make comments about the character and the events. In the direct interior monologue, there is no intervention from the narrator, but inverted commas may be used to indicate the thought process. Per cui, se voi vedete i due punti e le virgolette, è ovvio che capite che sta parlando il protagonista, ok? Ora, tornate a pagina 323, we were talking about the modernist nova. We have just said that the two techniques used mostly by these writers are the stream of consciousness and the interior monologue. The emphasis in these novels is on the thoughts of characters, not on their actions. Per cui l'enfasi di questi romanzi è sui pensieri dei personaggi e non sulle loro azioni. The plots in these novels are succession of thoughts and feelings which emphasized the psychological life of the characters rather than their external reality. Per cui we focus on the inner lives of the character. The external reality is not important. Per cui il focus è sui pensieri, sui sentimenti, sulla vita psicologica, sulla vita intima dei personaggi. At the same time, the narrator, who usually represents the link between text and reader, and was traditionally seen as essential for the understanding of a novel, more often than not became indifferent or neutral or even invisible. Il narratore che abbiamo visto nei romanzi vittoriani, molto importante, onnisciente, non onnisciente, in prima persona, in terza persona, qui è quasi invisibile, indifferente e neutrale, non fornisce nessun commento. The reader, therefore, of a modernist novel often had no one to directly guide him through the events and influence judgment. Per cui non c'è una guida che direttamente aiuta il lettore, come abbiamo detto prima, a meno che non sia un interior monologue indirect when the narrator intervenes. One of the most experimental of all modernist works was published in 1922 by James Joyce. Its novel, Ulysses, was revolutionary due to its narrative form, its treatment of time, and the fact that it took the technique of the stream of consciousness to the extremes. The other great protagonist of the experimental novel was Virginia Woolf. Like Joyce, she based her novels on the free form of the stream of consciousness. Per cui questi sono gli autori che maggiormente utilizzarono queste tecniche, Joyce and Woolf. Now, please get the map I sent you, where you find the modern nova and the stream of consciousness and the interior monologue. There's also a conceptual map. So, to sum up, the American psychologist William James coined the phrase stream of consciousness to define the continuous flow of thoughts and sensations that characterize the human mind. At the beginning of the 20th century, writers gave more and more importance to subjective consciousness and understood it was impossible to reproduce the complexity of the human mind using traditional techniques. Interior monologue, verbal expression of a psychic phenomenon, immediate speech without introductory expressions, two levels of narration, lack of chronological order, disregard for the rules of punctuation, lack of formal order, verbal expression of a psychic phenomenon. It is immediate, the interior monologue, free from introductory expressions. Two levels of narration, external and internal, lacks chronological order, lacks formal logical order, disregards of rules and punctuation.